Today we're going to be unpacking a song called Doing Your Mom. It's quite a journey. I'd say a wild ride through imagery, humor, and storytelling. It feels almost like an epic poem, one that's not afraid to push boundaries.
Yeah, it definitely grabs you from that first line. And the title itself kind of sets the tone, right?
Buckle up, because today we are going somewhere personal.
Listen,
Yeah, really personal.
personal is an understatement, I'd say.
Definitely. We're talking like family secrets level personal.
Family secrets set to music, to be precise.
Exactly. Music, specifically a song. A song that, honestly, I wish I'd never heard.
A song with some rather unique claims, let's just say.
Unique is one word for it. I'd also go with that mortifying,
Yeah,
awkward, incredibly uncomfortable.
I can see why.
It's a song about my mom.
By What's Happening Forum, Ray William Johnson, no less.
Yep. What's Happening for him? Ray William Johnson singing about my mom. It's a lot.
Our mission today, to unpack the factual claims within this rather unconventional piece of music.
Factual claims is a generous term, but let's roll with it.
So the key players in our story are, of course, your mother.
Dolly Parton hair, mom jeans.
And as the song so delicately puts it, impressive jugs.
Ugh. Can we just, skip over that part?
For the sake of thoroughness, we must acknowledge it. It is in the source material, after all.
Fine. You get these laugh-out-loud funny lines, like comparing being with her to Mario Kart, pure comedic gold.
Yeah, and that over 9,000 reference, it's so over the top.
Yeah.
But it definitely fits the comedic style. It feels like the songwriter is playing with those exaggerated tropes.
But moving swiftly on,
The setting of their first encounter. A Walmart?
where my mom was shopping for my underwear?
Drawers, the lyrics specify.
Right, drawers, because that's so much better.
And it's there, amidst the aisles of discounted undergarments, that she meets What's Happening for him, Ray William Johnson.
And things escalate, quickly. Like checkout line to minivan rendezvous quickly.
What's happening for him? Ray William Johnson uses some colorful imagery to describe the encounter.
Mario Kart, a broken down car.
Metaphors for enthusiasm, shall we say.
Enthusiasm is one word for it.
And then the sheer quantity of their interactions, over 9,000.
9,000. I don't even know what to say to that.
Hyperbole, perhaps?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Just, wow.
The song also delves into some surprisingly domestic details.
Crustless sandwiches. Sleeping butt naked.
A clear indication of a certain level of comfort.
Comfort. I'd say over-familiarity.
And then there's the line about you being a little young.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
It does raise some questions about the, shall we say, appropriateness of the situation.
Appropriateness is putting it mildly.
Our legal and ethical implications are certainly worth considering.
Definitely. We'll come back to that.
But for now, let's move on to the more explicit details.
Oh, joy. My favorite part.
What's happening for him? Ray William Johnson gets rather specific about your mother's preferences.
Donkey punch. So, to recap, we have a Walmart encounter, a minivan rendezvous, 9,000 interactions.
Crustless sandwiches, naked sleeping arrangements.
And a whole lot of baggage, emotional baggage.
But the final reveal is perhaps the most perplexing.
What's happening for him?
Oh,
Ray William Johnson claims to be in my house every night.
Every single night?
Which, logistically...
Cow. Precisely. The logistics are baffling.
Baffling is an understatement.
Yeah.
Utterly mind-boggling.
And then there's the repeated refrain. You know we straight.
Right. About that. There's something I need to share. Something that complicates things a bit.
Oh.
See? What's happening for him? Ray William Johnson clearly made some assumptions. Assumptions that are, shall we say, incorrect.
Incorrect how?
I'm gay.
Well, that certainly adds a new layer to the narrative.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where we are. My mom, what's happening for him? Ray William Johnson, a Walmart, a minivan, 9,000, whatever those were. And now, this.
Quite the collection of revelations. Where do we even go from here? Welcome back, everyone. We're still here, still trying to make sense of all of this.
Still here, still processing, still slightly traumatized.
Understandable. We've covered a lot of ground. A Walmart, a minivan, 9,000, something.
Don't forget the crustless sandwiches.
No.
And the naked sleeping.
And the other stuff.
The other stuff being a rather generous euphemism.
Generous is one way to put it. Traumatic is another. And now, your revelation. The twist in the tale.
The twist being that I'm gay, which, kind of throws a wrench into what's happening for him, Ray William Johnson's whole, we straight narrative.
It does, rather significantly. It reframes things somewhat.
Reframes, undermines, completely contradicts.
Indeed. It makes one question The veracity of his claims.
Veracity. I'd say it makes it look like he's either delusional or deliberately misleading. Maybe both.
It certainly adds a layer of ambiguity.
Ambiguity. Try a giant flashing neon sign that says, "This guy is not reliable."
Perhaps. But let's
That's so great.
let's unpack this a bit further. The repeated insistence on straightness while knowing you're gay.
Except for
Curious.
It's bizarre. It's like he's trying to convince himself, not me.
Perhaps it's a form of denial.
Denial. Or maybe he just enjoys flaunting his conquests.
Yeah.
Even if those conquests involve someone's mom while said someone is still living at home and is gay.
That does complicate the narrative, yeah.
Complicates it. It explodes the narrative.
Yeah.
It turns it into a cosmic black hole of awkwardness.
It's a strong image.
Was there. Asleep. Unaware.
It does paint a rather unsettling picture.
Unsettling is an understatement. It's
It's
creepy.
weird.
It's borderline horror movie material.
Let's not get carried away.
Deep breaths. We're in the home stretch. The final descent into, for me, it's the psychology of the narrator. What's driving him? What are his motivations? And what does his fixation on this particular woman reveal about him? I think if we can understand the narrator, we can start to unlock the deeper meaning of the song as a whole.
That's an excellent place to start. And I think it's important to consider the role of the son as well. How does his presence, even as a silent observer, shape the narrator's actions and the overall narrative?
Yes. The son is such a crucial piece of the puzzle. He's not just a passive bystander. He's a catalyst for the narrator's actions and a key to understanding the song's complex dynamics. I'm really excited to delve into that further.
Me too. It's going to be fascinating to unpack the layers of this relationship and explore how it contributes to the song's overall impact.
Yeah. You know, he's almost like a ghost in this story, the son, but his presence is constantly felt. The narrator seems obsessed with proving himself superior to him, constantly emphasizing that he's better, better, better. Why this need for validation? Especially in such a strange, almost taboo context.
It's almost Oedipal, isn't it? Like this subconscious desire to replace the father figure, not just in the mother's life, but in the whole family structure. And by boasting about his actions to the son, he's asserting dominance, trying to claim this territory, both physically and emotionally.
That's a really insightful connection. And it speaks to the song's deeper themes of masculinity and power dynamics. The narrator's actions aren't just about sexual conquest. They're about proving his manhood, establishing his place in the hierarchy. It's almost primal, this need to compete to assert dominance. And the fact that he chooses to do this by, well, doing the mom, is so loaded, isn't it? It's the ultimate act of transgression, violating the sacred family space.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, the song never explicitly states the father's presence or absence. We're left to fill in the blanks, which adds another layer of complexity to the whole situation.
Exactly. The absence of the father figure is almost deafening. It creates this void that the narrator tries to fill, but in a twisted, destructive way. And by addressing the son directly, he's forcing him to witness this transgression, to become complicit in a way. It's a really unsettling dynamic.
And the humor, which we talked about earlier, almost makes it more disturbing, doesn't it? Because it's like the narrator is using humor to mask the darkness of his actions, to make them seem less serious than they are. It's almost like he's trying to normalize this behavior, to make it palatable for the listener. Absolutely. The humor acts as a kind of Trojan horse, sneaking in these really disturbing ideas under the guise of entertainment. It makes you question your own reaction as a listener. Are you laughing along with the narrator? Or are you horrified by what he's describing? It's a really clever way of challenging the listener's complicity.
The song really pushes those boundaries, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's daring you to be uncomfortable, to question your own sense of morality. And I think that's part of what makes it so compelling. It's not just a catchy tune, it's an experience that stays with you long after the music stops.
It's definitely not background music. It demands your attention. And it rewards you for that attention with layers of meaning, complex characters, and a narrative that unfolds in surprising ways. We've talked a lot about the psychological aspects of the song, but I'd love to dive into the technical side a bit. What are your thoughts on the song's structure and how it contributes to the overall impact?
That's a great point. The structure is really interesting. It starts with this almost boastful comedic tone, setting the scene and introducing the characters. Then as the song progresses, it gradually gets darker, more confessional, culminating in that haunting repetition of "doing your mom" at the end. It's like a descent into madness. But it's done in such a clever, musically engaging way that you can't help but be drawn in.
The repetition is so effective, isn't it? It starts off feeling almost playful, even catchy. But as the song progresses, it takes on a more sinister tone, almost like a mantra, a way of reinforcing the narrator's dominance and control. It's a brilliant use of a simple musical technique to create a really complex emotional effect.
And the melody itself is interesting too. It's deceptively simple, almost childlike,
Mm.
which creates this weird juxtaposition with the lyrical content. It's like the music is lulling you into a false sense of security,
Right.
while the lyrics are hitting you with these really disturbing images and ideas. It's masterful.
Yeah.
The way the songwriter plays with those contrasting elements.
It's like they're using the music to disarm you, to make you more receptive to the message, even if that message is ultimately unsettling. And the use of rhythm is key to that as well.
Yeah.
It's driving, insistent, almost hypnotic. It pulls you along whether you want to go or not. It's a sonic embodiment of the narrator's obsession.
It's like you're trapped in his head, experiencing his thoughts and feelings firsthand. And the music is the vehicle for that journey. We've talked a lot about the lyrics and the music, but one thing I haven't mentioned yet is the overall production of the song. It's quite raw, almost lo-fi. Do you think that's a deliberate choice? Or is it just a reflection of the songwriter's resources at the time?
I think it's a deliberate choice, and a smart one. The raw production adds to the song's authenticity, its rawness. It feels like you're eavesdropping on a confession, something intimate and unsettling. If it were polished and overproduced, it might lose some of that emotional impact.
Right. It's like the rough edges make it more believable, more real. It adds to the sense that this is something that the narrator is pouring his heart into, even if it's messed up and disturbing.
Exactly. It's not trying to be slick or commercial. It's trying to convey a raw, unfiltered emotion. And I think that's what resonates with listeners. We've spent a lot of time analyzing the song's darker elements, but I don't want to overlook the humor, because it's genuinely funny in parts, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The lines about Mario Kart and over 9,000 had me laughing out loud. And even the more risque jokes like the 2 gallons of milk line are undeniably clever. But it's that blend of humor and darkness that makes the song so unique. It's like a roller coaster of emotions, taking you from laughter to discomfort and back again.
And the humor doesn't just provide comic relief. It also serves a deeper purpose. It allows the songwriter to tackle taboo subjects, to push boundaries, without completely alienating the listener. It's a way of making the unsettling more palatable, more accessible.
I think you're right. The humor acts as a kind of sugarcoating, making the bitter pill of the song's message easier to swallow. But it's important to note that even the humor is often laced with a sense of unease. It's not just lighthearted fun. There's an edge to it, a darkness that lurks beneath the surface.
Exactly. It's humor that makes you think, that makes you question your own reactions. It's the kind of humor that stays with you long after the punchline is delivered.
I'm thinking about the line, "She saw me butt naked, now she thinks I'm half black." It's funny on the surface, but it also raises questions about race perception and identity. It's a joke that makes you squirm a little, even as you're laughing.
That's a great example of how the song uses humor to tackle sensitive subjects. It's not afraid to go there to make you uncomfortable. And in doing so, it forces you to confront your own biases, your own assumptions about the world.
It's a real mind trip, this song. It's funny, it's disturbing, it's thought-provoking, and it's all masterfully crafted to keep the listener engaged from start to finish. We've covered so much ground in our analysis, but I feel like we're just scratching the surface. There are so many layers to this song, so many nuances to unpack. What are you most excited to delve into as we continue our deep dive?
I'm curious to explore the role of the listener more deeply. The narrator directly addresses the sun throughout the song, drawing the listener into the narrative and implicating them in the events. It's a powerful technique that really adds to the song's overall impact. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's brilliant. By addressing the sun directly, the songwriter turns the listener into a character in the story. We're not just passive observers. We're active participants in this messed up drama. And that forces us to confront our own reactions, our own complicity in the narrator's actions.
It's like the songwriter is holding up a mirror to us, forcing us to examine our own beliefs and values in relation to the themes explored in the song.
Right. It's not just about the narrator and the mom. It's about how we as listeners respond to this situation. Do we condone the narrator's behavior? Do we feel sympathy for the son? Or are we simply entertained by the whole thing? It's a question that lingers long after the song ends.
It certainly does. And I think that's the mark of truly great art. It's not just about entertainment. It's about engaging with complex ideas and forcing us to confront uncomfortable truths. And Doin' Your Mom definitely achieves that. It's a song that stays with you, that makes you think, that makes you feel, and that ultimately changes you in some way.
It's a real masterpiece of musical storytelling. We've analyzed the lyrics, the music, the themes, but what does it all mean in the end? What's the takeaway for the listener?
That's a great question, and I think it's one that each listener has to answer for themselves. The beauty of art is that it's open to interpretation. There's no single right answer. But I think the song ultimately invites us to think about the complexities of human nature, the dark side of desire, and the power dynamics that shape our relationships.
It's a song that forces us to confront the uncomfortable,
Yeah.
to look beneath the surface and acknowledge the darkness that exists within us all, and to do it all while making us laugh, making us think, and making us question everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world around us.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure. But it's a ride worth taking. And it's that willingness to push boundaries, to make us uncomfortable, that elevates this song from a simple novelty tune to something truly profound.
You know, as we've been talking, I keep coming back to that shift in tone at the end. It's almost like a punch to the gut after all the humor and bravado that comes before it. That repetition of doing your mom takes on a whole new meaning, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It becomes almost a desperate plea, a confession of guilt, maybe even a cry for help. All the swagger we saw earlier seems to evaporate, leaving behind this raw, vulnerable figure.
It makes you wonder what happens after the song ends. Does the narrator confront the consequences of his actions? Does the son ever find out? The song leaves us with so many unanswered questions, which I think is part of its brilliance.
Right. It invites the listener to continue the story in their own mind, to imagine what happens next, to grapple with the moral implications of the narrator's actions. And that's what great art does, isn't it? It sparks conversation, it challenges our assumptions, it stays with us long after we've experienced it.
And I think this song, for all its provocative elements, ultimately offers a powerful message about the dangers of unchecked desire, the complexities of human relationships, and the importance of taking responsibility for our actions.
There is also a warning embedded within the song, almost a cautionary tale. The narrator's obsession ultimately leads to his downfall, his vulnerability exposed in those final lines. It's a reminder that chasing fleeting pleasures can often lead to emptiness and regret.
It's a powerful message, delivered in a way that's both entertaining and deeply unsettling. We've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Doin' Your Mom. We've analyzed the lyrics, explored the themes, dissected the musical structure. But what I find most fascinating is how this seemingly simple song sparks such complex and nuanced conversations.
That's the power of great songwriting. It's about more than just crafting catchy melodies and clever rhymes. It's about tapping into something deeper, something universal, something that resonates with the human experience. And Doin' Your Mom, despite its provocative title and subject matter, manages to do just that.
It's a testament to the fact that art can be both entertaining and thought-provoking, that it can make us laugh and cringe and think all at the same time. And that's a rare achievement, in my opinion.
I completely agree. It's a song that defies easy categorization. And I think that's why it's so captivating. It keeps you guessing, it challenges your assumptions, and it ultimately leaves you with more questions than answers.
And that's the perfect note to end on, I think. But hey, thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for joining me on this incredibly weird and deeply personal journey. And thanks for not judging me too harshly.
No judgment here, only empathy
Yeah.
and a healthy dose of bewilderment. And perhaps a lingering question for our listeners to ponder. If all of this is true, what does it say about us? About our culture? About the stories we tell ourselves? And the stories that are told about us?
Good question. A question I'm not sure I want to answer, but a question nonetheless. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone, to this incredibly weird episode.